What's up, and welcome to the podcast. Today on Awoken Dudes, we have Robin Raps. Robin is an artist, a musician, a writer from Indianapolis, Indiana. On the podcast today, we talk about the creative process. We talk about what it takes to break through in the industry. How do you become a creative professional, and why you should maybe pick one medium and focus on that and go all in. We also talk about, like I said, life. There's a lot of philosophy in this. There's a lot of what is the meaning of everything. And in the last little bit of the podcast, we take one of Robin's songs from his new album, The Florist, and we break it down bar by bar. This was one of my favorite conversations I've had so far, and I truly hope you enjoy it and find it as enriching and rewarding as I did. Now onto the pod.
Watch Twin Peaks with my sister, drink coffee and such.
At the same time, though, it's
show
like
and
people
die.
are more comfortable with men being like delving into their sensitivities, or it seems like that's beginning to be the trend nowadays.
Yeah.
So
I think there's definitely a need for it.
Yeah.
Which is why I started doing these conversations initially.
Yeah.
Because I thought there was something wrong with me for a long time for being more sensitive and wanting to talk about my emotions and for wanting to talk through things and having these like intellectual, like heady, like conversations about like, what does it mean to be spiritual? What does it mean to be a man?
Yeah.
And then I've started to see that there is some content, but like you run out of the content pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You don't run out of like, I don't know, girls and hula hoops or I don't know, like trick shots. Like there's no bottom to that.
Yeah.
But there definitely is a bottom to the space of content where it's men talking about their feelings, but that is growing. And I feel like very grateful to sit here with you and like add to that.
For sure.
Add to the drip.
Absolutely. Let's drip.
Let's drip, bro.
Let's drip on.
I do want to talk to you about your journey as an artist.
Yeah.
And then later on in the pod, we'll break down one of your songs.
Cool.
So you're a rapper.
Yes, sir.
You're a white rapper.
Hell yeah.
Do you identify as a white rapper? No. So you're a rap artist, and I don't know much about your backstory, honestly. So maybe kind of go over your creative interests as a kid, and then maybe get up to the point where you are performing as a rap artist for the first time. Like, give us some like timelines and like ages and stuff.
Yeah. So I guess as a kid, I started making art in like grade school, which was just like drawing, because my grade school had like artistically talented, like the art program or whatever. So it was just drawing and stuff like that. And then getting into, well, I guess I played trumpet in middle school, which like never really amounted to anything.
Dude, I played trumpet too.
Shut up, really?
I swear.
What
Yeah.
chair were you though?
I was like the second chair.
Yeah.
There's some do-gooder first chair, like
For sure.
just workaholic. She
Yeah.
was insane.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, she was so good. Like the skill gap between us two was just incredible.
Man,
Yeah.
that's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really take it that seriously.
Yeah.
Like there was a time where I was first chair for like a month, and then like I moved back again. But I just, you just had to choose one. It was either like a band, orchestra, or a choir. And I was like, okay, well, band, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then like in high school, I did a ton of photography. I was a huge photographer for a while. I had like my dad had this Canon AE1 film camera, which is like I think it's like the staple Canon film camera. And like, whew, man, I went crazy with that thing for a while, which was awesome. Spent a lot of time in the dark room, also like beginning in college, but and I didn't really write until the end of high school. It's funny because I dated this girl who was like much more artistically in tune and like philosophical than I was. And you always have people in your life that will like incite something in you or get something out of you.
Be your muse.
Yeah. And I feel like at that time before being with her, I was more just like playing soccer, lifting weights, spending time with my friends, like doing the damn high school thing, and that was all great. But it was great to sort of like get my intellectual side rolling. So that's when I started writing, and I really started liking English. I had never really given English much attention before, like as a subject in school, and then when I went to college, I just started by taking things I was interested in. So I took some photography classes, and some writing classes, and I had a philosophy course as my like freshman seminar. And I just kept taking more writing classes, kept enjoying it, and then it just felt like what came naturally. So I kept doing that, and I had a roommate there, which you know now because we just shot the music video.
Paul,
Paul Brooklyn. So Brooklyn, yeah, aka PA the Boston. So
Boston,
yeah,
hell yeah.
So and he made music, and we were roommates in college, and he was showing me his music and stuff, and he was a lit major, I was a writing major, and he's also like very analytical mind, so we would just sit in our room and just talk about stuff for like hours on end. And so I wrote a hook one time and I brought it to him, and he was like, that's dope. And then we made a song out of it, and then that's when I started making music. And like,
is a hook a chorus?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I should probably know this.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever.
I'm like officially like a music video filmmaker, director person.
Yeah,
now. I'm like,
yeah.
What's
yeah,
a
yeah.
hook? I'm like,
Yeah.
I probably
What's
should.
a hook?
I should ask
What's
that
a
first.
hook?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you brought Paul a hook.
Yeah. Yep. And and then we just made a song from there, and like my writing was good because I'd been writing for years, but my voice sounded like complete ass. It was so bad for a long time, in my mind at least. It took me forever, but and yeah, so I made some music with him in college a little bit. I wasn't dedicated to music at that point yet. I was more dedicated to writing, I guess. And like after college, I wrote a short memoir, and that was me. And I had a blog, and I was like, I want to do writing for real after college. So like I tried a couple of things, and then me and Paul would meet up once a week to make a song together, just to like keep ourselves sharp. And so I would like pick a beat at the beginning of the week and send it to him, and we'd like write something. And I ended up starting to really like that. And then we made a whole mixtape out of it. And then I was like, this is really making a lot of sense, even though I was also doing the writing.
Yeah.
And so from there, I don't know, like I was thinking about it a lot, and I was like, man, at some point I'm going to have to choose one of these things, because there's the thing that Jordan Peterson talks about, which he's also quoting someone else when he talks about it, but it's some theory where career-wise, you sort of fit yourself through a pinhole. Mm-hmm. So like you have all this potential on one side, right? All these things that you could do. And what you have to do is narrow it down to one thing and become really damn good at that one thing and become an expert. And then you fit through the hole because you've been doing that one thing for a long time and becoming really honed at it. And then on the other side, it opens back up because you've substantiated a career or an expertise in one area, so that you can use that sort of as a launch point for doing other things now. Like, so my idea with that, for example, is like, instead of doing like writing this a short memoir, or like having a website or whatever, like a blog, I'm just focusing on music. And then it's like, if I can make music work, then at some point I'll be doing that full time, and I'll have more time. Like right now I work that and another job, so I'm then like I'll have more resources and time and opportunity to do other things on the other side, like I don't know, help write a film, or like do a blog again, or write a book, something like that.
I think the opportunity is the biggest thing there from my experience. And what I hope someone would take away from what you just said is that you had to learn that at some point. You had to learn to focus and to pay attention. And then you learned, if I put all of this attention into one area, I'll get through the pinhole into the other side. And that's kind of been the trajectory for my career too.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to you, and I, for a second, honestly, to get like real like emotional with you, I started to feel insecure, because I'm like, you figured it out, and I didn't figure it out quick enough. But I'm like, wait a second. I had to go through this phase, and I've kind of figured that out with camera stuff.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. It's just like the artist's journey. Like I would imagine before you heard that Jordan Peterson thing, maybe you felt kind of like, and you maybe still feel like this, like kind of like all over the place. Like what am I doing? Like with an artist's journey, like no one ever tells you it's right.
Yeah,
Like
I
one
know.
yeah.
There's no one to tell you that. Like
Yeah.
you have to, I don't know, just continue to think about it a lot as you're doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
How do you get the do you feel like you have artistic confidence now?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
in the music, just
Yeah.
because. So there's another quote that we talked about before, the Ira Glass quote, where he's talking about,
the creative process.
the creative process, and he's like a lot of people who do creative work, like nobody tells people creatives this at the beginning, and it's that you get into the game because you have really good taste, like you have good taste in music or painting or whatever it is, and then as you start doing creative work, like what you make creatively doesn't live up to your taste, and there's a whole chapter of trying to fill that gap. The ones who end up filling the gap and getting to the point where the art that they make actually lives up to their taste in art as well is people who show up consistently for however long it takes and create an entire volume of work over, like, you just keep showing up and giving yourself a deadline and making a huge volume of work. And then just the practice and the consistency is what gets you to that point eventually. Yeah. And I feel like with this album that I just put out, for me at least, like that's the first time I've really lived up to my taste in music, which is like,
oh yeah, man,
sick, you know.
That's
so
sick.
hyped. So
sick. So all right, you and Paul are meeting up, and then you're writing songs once a week. Did you know that you should have that kind of discipline, or was it kind of like happenstance, accidental, like you were motivated and so you met once a week? Or did you know that like this is non-negotiable, we need to meet once a week?
It wasn't like a non-negotiable thing, I guess. It was kind of just like I loved school so much. Like I love reading and writing and discussing lofty ideas and whatever it is. And we were now out of that, and I'm like working at a restaurant, and it's like just a very different world. And I didn't want to lose. I didn't want to become dull, basically. Like I wanted to stay sharp intellectually and artistically. So I was just like, hey, well, I guess maybe it was non-negotiable. I was just like, we should do this once a week so we can stay sharp and stay creatively sound. But yeah, it was just in an effort to stay up in those ways. Yeah.
Good. I wish that's one thing that I wish I would have known earlier on, was to stay consistent and to stay intellectually sharp and just stay creatively sound. Like I didn't go to college long enough where I had a community of creatives. And even when I went to school, I came back up here very quickly and kind of just got submerged into like, I guess I was a parent too. So I was like parent and like restaurant culture. But it is very important to stay consistent and to keep creating. That's the only way you get better.
Yeah.
So with you and Paul, you go to college, you're out of college, and you guys are staying sharp once a week writing. So let's keep going down the path of the artist, the journey to the first show.
Sure. And yeah, so we were doing that, and then I started to like it a lot, and then I was like, okay, well maybe I'll make my own mixtape. So I made my own mixtape after that. Which was writing wise, it's one of the best things I've made. My voice still wasn't there yet. And then at some point I got to the point where I was just talking about where it's like, okay, I have to choose between these things. 'Cause I wrote that memoir in 2018 and I was doing the, website, I think before that. And so I was like, I need to choose one. And then, there was one moment where I was like, okay, I'm going to choose music. And then I started going, and so we were recording in Paul's room, and then through a mutual friend I met this guy who's an engineer, and I started going to his house and recording there. And then I made an EP which I put out last year, and then through the same mutual friend, I met this other guy who owns a studio in Broderpool, and I started going there to record. And yeah, this year was the first year that I did shows, so it just kept building up from there,
crazy.
I guess.
I thought you'd been doing it longer. So last year, was it Blooming Season or In Bloom?
Blooming Season.
Blooming Season?
Yeah.
In Bloom's a Nirvana album.
Yeah.
So Blooming Season was your first like EP that you put out through?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
I hate you. You're so talented.
What? No,
no.
It took a long time.
And just for context, you're what, 29?
Yeah.
So you went to college, you were studying philosophy, writing, and then it was like a couple of years ago, you're like 27. You're like, okay, I need to focus in on one thing. And you put all that energy into music?
Yeah. I mean, let's see, I guess I was 23 when I graduated, or 24 when I graduated.
Yeah.
And I was like messing around with a couple things for a few years. And then I was like, okay, it's going to be music for sure now.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So,
Yeah.
dude, I hope that if you're listening to this, you're taking away right now how time is not the enemy. Like, you have so much time.
Yeah.
Unless you're like me and you have a child when you're 22. Now I'm like, okay, I can start my artistic journey when I'm 43 and they're 18 or 19. So two things, it's kind of blowing my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what happens if when you don't have a family when you're 22, 23, you can take your time and figure things out.
Yeah.
But I do think there are a lot of people that think they have to have answers when they're 20, 19, 21, because you're told to pick a career.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could start, you're gaining talents that are going to, even if you don't become like the biggest rapper in the world, you're still going to be able to have a career, and you're figuring that out right now. It takes time.
It does take time.
Yeah. I've got some 18 and 19-year-old kids will listen to some of my like hero journey, like YouTube stuff. And they're like, I feel lost. I'm like, just pick a thing and go at it for a while.
Yeah.
And just gaining competence in one area opens up other doors.
Mm-hmm.
So first show was last year.
No, it was this year.
Your first live show was this year?
Yep. Yeah. In February.
Man.
Yeah.
Where was that at? And what was that like? Let's go through that. And I hate to do the age thing, but I think it's important. And it was for me too, to be like, okay, life isn't over at 30. Life isn't over at 28. Life isn't over at 25. So just like say what age you were at, and then kind of give us like the story of like the first show.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I was 28 then.
Yeah.
First show, which is like, man, I spent so much time just to go into the age thing, stressing over that specifically, because I'm like, man, I graduated from school. I've got this degree, and I went to a good school. And so like and I'm working in restaurants because I'm like, I think what comes most naturally to me and what I'm actually designed to do is to make art. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make art, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to work at restaurants at the same time just to like, so I can fund it and have a decent life. And like, man, spent so much time stressing over it. I'm like, okay, I've been at restaurants for 2 years now. Like, fuck, like I've never, it's been 3 years, and so like, and I'm like, man, if I haven't like made my claim in this area by 30, like I'm going to be so depressed and stuff like that. And like the number on it, like I know Gary Vaynerchuk talks about it all the time. And like even kids like you're saying who are like 18 or 20 or whatever it is, think they need to have everything figured out. And it's just like, I don't know. Like life actually is pretty long. Like, I don't know. If I have it my way, I think I'm going to live to be like 90 or 100 because like take care of yourself and whatnot. And I just think that that was causing me stress for a really long time.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't need to be that way. I think it was a perspective that or a lens that I was putting on myself. And you call it, society or whatever the pressure is. It says you need to have things figured out by this time. But at the end of the day, I don't really have anyone around me who's saying like, you need to get this figured out, or like, what are you doing with your life and stuff like that. It used to be that way a little bit, but I've made some believers out of like, people that are close to me that wanted me to take a more traditional route are now like, oh, we see that this is something that is gaining legitimacy in our eyes. And I'm like, let's go.
First off, fuck those people.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Like they're speaking from their experience,
their paradigm.
Yeah. And
I think also like, maybe people are projecting fear. They're like, what you're doing sounds scary. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's some jealousy too. It's like, you think you're better than me because you're going to try to make it as an artist. It's like, look, if you have any idea how long it takes, even like when I started using cameras to like be of service to like businesses, people are like, you're living your dream. I'm like, one, this is nowhere near my dream. I'm just trying to figure out how to make money. But like the gap between am I worth it and getting paid, you know, a very minuscule fee at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's like the journey from picking up a guitar and getting booked as a band. It is not like an easy, fun thing. It's just a thing that you are like insane for going after. And like, we idolize these insane people, and it's scary to other people. I think people are projecting fear or, I mean, jealousy or something, but I
think so for sure.
Yeah. It's like, man, you go for it. You write an album.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Yo, sorry to interrupt this session. We'll get back to it in just a second, but I wanted to take a second to let you know that I am trying to build an online community of people that want to get better. I was struggling for a long time. I didn't know what my purpose was, and I still don't in a lot of ways, but I felt so lost. I felt so alone. I was overweight. I hadn't worked out in over a decade. And I started to get my stuff together. And I did it by watching videos like this. I did it by reading. And I made a promise to myself that if I get better one day, I will do everything I can to make stuff that can potentially help you right now. One of the ways I do that is by putting out a newsletter. There's a link in the description of this video. I promise not to sell you anything or to give your email to anyone else. It's just a way for us to stay connected. Thank you so much for at least considering it. Now back to the pod. So you have people looking at you, and they're believers now. Right?
Yeah.
Was it? So we're coming back to the show. We're coming back to that first show.
Yeah.
Were people believers after the show and after they saw you live?
Yeah.
Okay. So so where was the show at? How did you get booked? Did you reach out to someone? Did someone ask you? Mm-hmm. Did you make it happen for yourself?
Yeah. So I had that EP out, and I had made I think 3 music videos at that point. But I had a friend who was managing me for a while, and then we sort of stopped doing that. And then, but someone who I had met through him became my new manager. And so he was the one who booked the show for me because we were like scouring and whatnot. And then, so we got the show booked at Healer for February. Mm-hmm. And it was great. I mean,
is it the garden party?
It was the first garden party. So it was like a showcase show.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So I was deep diving Instagram to find acts to come and play. Mm-hmm. So we could showcase local talent basically. And I think so. I've been in Indianapolis for most of my life, and I have such an amazing community of friends and people here over all of those years. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to get a ton of people to show up, and the venue's super eclectic, and the show went fantastically. And some people that I thought maybe didn't like I don't know. I had people who were listening to my music, but no one had ever seen me live before, and I hadn't done anything live.
No one had seen you live.
Yeah. And it was because I believe in it so much, and it's because it's what I really think that it's my purpose to do. I was nervous at first, but then when I got up on the stage and stepped up in front of all those people, all of that melted instantly. I was like, yeah, this feels completely right. Yeah. So the performance went great, and it was a really fun time, and I think it proved to me, I was like, I can do this for sure. And it proved to other people too. They're like, this is more than just a hobby for this guy. And it's it was a great first show.
What do you think it is about the ego of an artist who, when they get up on stage and they're like, this is where I'm supposed to be, in a room with my voice amplified, all the lights are on me, everyone shut up and sit back.
Oh no, that's for sure. I think
what is that? Because I have that too, dude. Even grandma, I'm sorry if you're listening to this, but everyone in my family knows. At my grandfather's funeral, I got up and I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be, in front of everyone, talking with a captive audience, and it's I can't turn that off. Mm-hmm. And then after the funeral, I was like, I killed it. And my brother was like, I know that you're saying that to be funny, but you 100% think that. I'm like, yeah, kind of.
You're like, yeah. So and he's like, also, Grandpa's dead. Think about that for a second, okay?
Is it not enough hugs or some? What is it? Something that's ingrained into all of us? It's like you're like bidding for the approval of the tribe. Like, you know, that's you're on display. Most people have a fear of public speaking, and a lot of really good actually performers have that fear. Like it is a thing inside of you. So it's like maybe it's a desire to face the fear because, like you said,
that's also part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
I think that all artists grapple with that between like ego and like humbly giving a relevant message. And so I think it seems like that's the battle.
Yeah.
But I think for me personally, I think this is just my engineering. Like this is what I'm engineered to do. This is my purpose. And so it's like, I get that there's a lot of ego tied into that. Like there can be, but also it's like somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to be the artist who gets up and like says things that inspire and make people better.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if that's what I'm meant to do, then I'm just going to try to do that responsibly.
Yeah.
And as in like with not as much ego, with confidence.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But,
dude, I've been around a lot of artists, a lot of B-list celebrities doing like stand-up and stuff, and not all of them have the presence of mind that you were just demonstrating. Not everyone knows that there's a separation between ego and like, I'm wielding this thing and I want to do it responsibly.
Yeah.
I think that's why that's two things. One, that's why I'm like attracted and gravitated towards your energy and wanted to like stay in that realm. I had no idea that you hadn't performed live yet, which is blowing my mind.
right on.
But also understanding what the journey is as an artist, and to see that in you so early on in the career was surprising to me. But now like I hear the backstory, like it kind of makes sense. It's just interesting how like the purpose of art can change. Like at what point did you stop being a selfish artist? Because I don't know you, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I wanted to create art to validate myself for a long time. And then at some point I realized I can express myself and I can capture it into a camera and share it, or I can go on stage and I can tell jokes, but it's because I want to serve a purpose instead of like, when did you have a shift at some point where it became, and the quicker you get here, the better. But did you have a point where you realized, oh, this can serve me and make me feel good, but I can also use it to serve other people, which will probably make it better?
That's interesting.
Yeah. Did you have a point where like an inflection point? Was it like sitting on top of a mountain, head full of like mescaline or something?
Yeah. It was mescaline actually.
Was it really?
No.
Oh,
But no, I think it seems like for me, because in terms of like my background in writing, I was also like engaged in philosophy at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it's like from the beginning, it was also sort of like, if I'm going to be writing something, I'm going to try to make it like philosophically sound. And so like most of my writing is that way. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like it was always like the purpose of writing for me was also to make sure that it's something of value, just to make sure that it's something of value, which I think extends beyond me. So, man,
do you have like amazing parents?
They're pretty damn good. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Good parents.
Because I'm listening to you. I'm like, man, I didn't have that confidence in my craft until like 6 days ago.
What, dude? I mean,
no, it was, I feel like it's waxed and waned for me, and I have a child, you don't. So maybe that's part of it, where like, and I feel like having a child made me feel less sure of the world. I was like, I don't have anything figured out. So I think when I was younger, I had the confidence to go and share, and I don't know if I thought that I could help anyone or inspire people with my work. I think it was all very self-serving. I was very selfish. And maybe that was like wanting like adoration from my parents or something. But to hear you say that when you write things, you want it to help somebody, or you know that it could have that power, that's just an amazing level of confidence. And if you don't have that confidence, that should be something you aspire to. Because I think that now often I'm like, okay, how do I want to live my life? Like if I knew that I only had like a week left, like what would I want to do? And I try to fill my time with that as much as possible.
Yeah.
A lot of it's minutia too, but in that minutia, I try to like be present and mindful. So I'm like, okay, when I make art, someone's going to see this. potentially, especially with the internet and with my journal, written word, it's going to be there essentially forever.
Yeah.
Nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
But it's going to exceed my time as a mortal. And that's a very new concept to me.
Yeah.
So I think that's all. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy that you had that confidence. And, man, good job to your parents, dude.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You're blowing my
thanks.
mind.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's not like totally selfless. Like a lot of it is, I mean, it makes me feel great to make art and to get better at it. And like when the writing is good, I'm like, man, there's nothing better. There's no better feeling than that. So
how often when you sit down to write, it's two-parter. How often do you sit down to write?
It just depends like what phase I'm in. 'Cause like with music, I think this is the case for most musicians, but for me, it's like I'll have a season where like I'm making a work, like an album or whatever it is, and so I'll be writing, like that's like my daily task basically is writing. But like for example, for the past couple of months, like my album had already been written and I was recording all of it. And then I was doing like logistical stuff, like getting these shows set up and like making content and doing the album art and things like that. So it varies by chapter of the process, basically.
Yeah. Periodizing your life.
Yeah.
It's same with running. People be like, how many miles a week do you run? I'm like, well, if I'm ultra marathon training, it's like 100.
Yeah.
If I'm doing a 5K, it's maybe 30.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're in a period of your life where you're writing, and is it always daily? Is it sometimes more daily?
If I need to take a break, then I'm cool with giving myself a break. But usually it will be the daily task. Like I show up at my desk at this time. And it's like I'm going to use this time to write. And some days it's like absolutely nothing. And I feel defeated and shitty. And then other days I'll make, like there's this one song on my album called Ifs, Ands, Buts, and like, man, I was like trying to make something happen with this for like several weeks and like nothing was really coming up. And then I took a trip to Michigan with two of my friends to this cabin like way up in the north, fall time, beautiful, just like I'd never been there before, super inspiring. And I went outside to this like picnic table to write, and in 45 minutes the entire song was done and it was golden. So it's just like I don't know.
Do you when you go to sit down, like how often are you facing the resistance and then like pushing through that? Like what does that process look like? Do you ever block off time where you're like, I have to write from like 11 to noon and I'm going to sit here no matter what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
Okay.
And like, yeah, like I said, sometimes I'd come up with absolutely nothing. Sometimes I just have like a couple lines, and if they're really good lines, then I'm like, sweet, that works. Like there's a Hemingway thing where he's like, just write one true thing, and like that's like his basis for if it was a good session or not.
Yeah.
And so like that's how I try to gauge mine. So if I come up with one true line that's good, then I'm like, cool.
Yeah. Sit down, man. It's so hard in the world we live in too. Like I write on my laptop a lot. I've been writing more long form because I know that if I sit there and I can avoid the distraction monster, I'll eventually
Which is
get
hard,
there.
man.
Yeah. It's important to deadlines too. When I've been in a season where I'm like putting out content, like on my YouTube channel on a regular basis, it's like putting myself up against a deadline of you have to publish something at Wednesday at 10 o'clock. But those reps allow, I think, for inspiration to come through. Like you're sitting at the bench in Michigan and the song came together in 45 minutes. And romantically, it's like, oh, it just came to me and I sat there for 45 minutes and that was it. But it's like, actually, when you get down into like the micro budgeting of like the creative process, it was like hours and hours and years that got you to the point of the sitting there for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So all those reps are super important,
For sure. Yeah. Completely. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you use a running analogy. It's like you see someone run a fast marathon. They're like, oh my God, you can run 26.2 miles so fast. It's like, well, I had to run 10,000 miles to be
get
able
to
to
this
run
point.
those 26 miles that fast.
Completely.
Hey there, and sorry to interrupt the vibe again. We'll be right back with the conversation after I tell you about Robin's YouTube channel. Robin's channel features all of his music videos. His latest video called Ruckus will be at the end of this video, and I'll throw a link up on the screen so you can go and watch it after the podcast. There will also be links to Robin's work in the description of this video. I personally recently made a video with Robin, so depending on when you're watching this interview, you may be able to see the work we did together as well. All right, back to the conversation.
By the way, the album is called The Florist. Check it out. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, everything. There's something in there for everybody, really. It's great.
Oh yeah, that's what you're supposed to. That's the thing about the content library. You do these things to like, we're gonna cut it up into a bunch of pieces, and then it's gonna be used to direct people to you, and then like if you like it, you'll share it, and people make them to me, and then the people that are like here for me will be like, oh my god, that guy's so cool. He has an album. Because I just want to hang out with people.
Yeah, we're hanging, but we're also promoting because we do great work, and
I always forget that you can do that.
Yeah. Dude, I've been learning that. The content game has been an interesting journey for me because.
Well, it's just like anything else. You have to like sit down and come up with a plan. Like when you watch people do it and execute it real well, you're like, oh, they're just making
that's
content.
Easy.
It's like, no. There's a plan to all of that.
It takes a lot, and I would much rather make art than content. Mm-hmm. But that's just the way the game is today.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right.
So I have this song. We can just. I don't know if that comes through on the.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. Hold it up. Sound okay?
And it's like no ifs, ands, or asses. Break more bread than ties as the time passes. Lake Michigan tide better than aspirin. Stepping on the side, walking by handprints. One day that'll be us. A half thought, stepped on, post faded a buzz.
So I guess we can go into the hook. I'm really glad we're doing this just because I like the writing. For me, is everything, and I'm very, very specific with it. So I'm like excited to break down that for people if anyone cares. So,
they care.
Yeah,
they care.
I hope so. So the hook is like no ifs, ands, or asses, and that's just like a fun play on words because it's ifs, ands, buts. But that was like the first line that I came up with. I was like, I heard the beat and it was like all like saucy and slow, and I was like, ooh, and then that line just came to me and I was like, okay, we're gonna build from that. And then
hands and asses.
And then it's break more bread than ties as the time passes, which is just like, I don't know, I feel like I was more emotional as a younger person and like more ready to like cut things off or be egoic about like being slighted and things like that, and like more willing to cut ties basically. And now for me it's more just like, I don't know, just as you get older and mature, you're more ready to just break bread and not like get heated about things like that, like quite a bit less dramatic.
Break more bread than ties.
Yeah, break more bread than ties.
Fun fact, I only know this because of Alexis, and she's a Spanish major. Alexis is my fiance. You hear me talk about it all the time. She's the best. She's always right. She really is. Anyway, companion means with bread. Con is with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Pan is bread.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Totally.
So that's why the significance of breaking bread, it's baked into like the language. Companion,
wow.
Your companion, someone who you have bread with.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
I like that line.
Okay.
We were joking at the beginning about like making homosexual jokes towards each other.
Yeah.
It's like once you're like, dude, I like your haircut, you little gay boy. It's like there is the point that I'm getting to is that there is this like Jungian like a synchronicity that is so deeply ingrained into us that we don't even understand it until you start pulling the layers back. And like your music was like a way to express like this language that transcends actual words, and it came through you in the form of English, in the form of creative expression, and something about music too, man. Like I'm sure you've seen these videos with the Alzheimer's patients. They can like they can barely move, barely talk, and then they play a beat from like 100 years ago, and then they come to life.
Really? I've never seen that.
Yeah, I'll if I find them, I'll send them to you.
Okay.
There's something about music and rhythm, and I think it's our ability to pattern recognize that brings out like the deep recesses of our consciousness.
Yeah.
So you're tapping into
Wow,
huge
that's
things
interesting.
with going through the hero's arc. The Joseph, you know who Joseph Campbell is?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Joseph Campbell, like in the hero's arc, man, you've gone from being this like angry, ready to fight everything, right, and becoming like this being this like warrior that's like wielding a sword without any kind of like caution. But now you're like, okay, well, I think it's probably better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener at war, right?
Yeah.
So like you're like, okay, maybe I should forgive people.
Yeah.
And I'd rather break bread with more people and let it be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, completely.
That's what I'm
Damn.
thinking from it.
Yeah, dude, I love some Joe Campbell.
Yeah.
He's the best.
You're fucking, every time I listen to your music, I have thoughts like this. Like I pause it all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes me hyped, dude. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's what it is for me. That's why I make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's we could just sit on this for another hour, but let's get
Right.
get to another bar.
Okay. The next bar goes,
And you can play the
Yeah.
song if you want.
the next bar is like Michigan Tide Better Than Aspirin, which was just where I wrote the song. And because it's right on the water and the waves were coming in, and it's like very, healing and medical basically. And then the next one is Stepping on the Side, Walking by Handprints, which is like a sidewalk. It's sidewalk, but it's also walking by handprints, so it's like a combination of words. But because when you're walking on the sidewalk, you see the handprints in there.
Oh, as it's drying. People put their hands.
Yeah,
in it. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and you're like, it's just a meditative moment. And then the beginning of the first verse is like, one day that'll be us, a half thought stepped on, post fade of the buzz. And it's like, one day we're going to be the handprint in the sidewalk that somebody's walking by because we're dead and gone, and we're a half thought now stepped on, post fade of the buzz. Like we had the buzz, we were living, and now it's all gone.
Yeah.
And now
Is post fade? Is that like an editing term?
no, just like I was like, it was fate of the buzz, and then I just put post in front of it.
Fate, FATE or
FADE.
Okay.
Like fate of the buzz. Like
Yeah,
the buzz
yeah.
is like vitality in life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I see things as like a video editor or music editor now where you take the bar and then you push it down to like, so like the analogy still works.
Yeah. True.
Because so much of your writing, I feel like, is you mixing contemporary terms with literary terms and musical terminology, and then just maybe a poetic quirk about where you're at in the moment.
Yeah.
Which is, what you're demonstrating right now.
No, totally.
So
yeah.
One day that'll be us.
A half thought stepped on, post fade of the buzz.
Okay.
And
That's so gloomy, bro.
yeah, well, no, it's just
It's a joke. I don't think that's gloomy at all to meditate on death.
so
But
depressing.
yeah.
No, yeah, it's a stoic thing, you know,
yeah.
like the memento mori.
Yeah.
So, and then it's like, then the next line is a Lord of the Rings line. Let me play it because I love Lord of the Rings so much. It's my favorite.
The buzz, and Gandalf came back because his task wasn't done. He said, "What you gonna do before you ashes and dust?" Shit, I
Okay,
think I'll
so
make
it's and Gandalf came back because his task wasn't done. So if you've seen Lord of the Rings, which if you haven't, do that because
Spoiler
you're
alert,
really
by the way.
missing out. I basically grew up on Lord of the Rings. That's like where I learned right from wrong and like the hero's journey and everything. And so Gandalf is a wizard, and he's the most badass, and he dies, but then he gets sent back. Like that's what he says. He's like, I was sent back until my task is done. And then in the movie, he's like, there's a quote where he's talking to Frodo, which Frodo is the ring bearer, so he's the hero, and he has the great like weight on his shoulders basically in the story, and he's like fretting over his plight basically of having to take the ring to Mordor, and he has this big task, and it's just rife with suffering and nothing's fun about it really, but he has to do it, and he's like, I wish that I had never been appointed this task because there's so much suffering involved, and I hate this. And then Gandalf's like, everyone who has been faced with something such as you has said the same thing, but it wasn't their decision to make. Like, it was the task that they were appointed to, as their fate, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, all we have to decide is what to do with the time that's given to us. And that's basically the next line of my song, is like, Gandalf came back because his task wasn't done. He said, what you gonna do before you ashes and dust? So it's just like commenting on the fact that, people are beset with different circumstances, and some of them you can control and some of them you can't. But the best thing to do is just decide how you're going to take it in stride and do the best that you can with those things.
Are they mowing the lawn?
And we got some mowing going on.
They fucking usually do this on Wednesdays.
Yeah. It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot.
So what I find, it seems like contradictory on the surface of Stoicism and your writing. And this is not going to come around to being positive, I promise, because I said contradictory about your art.
That's cool. I'm here for criticism.
You want to be in the moment, and you want to be meditative, and you want to be contemplative, and you want to be free-flowing.
Yeah.
But then you introduce impermanence, and then that kind of, at least when I hear it, I think, man, that's urgent. So what am I going to do about it? But then it's the balancing act.
Yeah.
And a lot of your art, almost all the stuff that I remember is all the stuff that like speaks to me. It's all about, give me a second, give me a minute, give me a moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've got your task. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to be gone one day, but it's never like you're going to be gone one day. It doesn't matter. It's like the most important thing is that you don't have forever to act.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's contradictory. And I think it's, I guess, paradoxical. So it seems contradictory, I think, until you open yourself up to it. And I think that is a barrier to entry for some people. But it's like once you can like accept the suffering of the hero's journey, once you accept that you're Frodo and there's nothing you're going to do about it and everything rests on your shoulders, right?
Yeah.
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 You get to the place of being more open to the beauty in things. It's like accepting the suffering also allows you to accept the beauty and to amplify it in ways that were not previously possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're trying to do with your art, or is that does that speak to you?
Yeah, no, it does for sure. I think that's a relevant question to ask, because it's like, on the one hand, everyone is going to die, and like, and however many years, maybe you'll be forgotten, and like, it'll be like you never were, maybe that's one of the reasons why I make music, because I'm trying to cheat death.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are you do you feel like you're trying to wake people up? I was going to say that maybe you're doing that. But I want to put words in your mouth, but now I'm putting words in your mouth. Damn it.
Dang it. Come on, John. I have my own words in my mouth.
Are you trying to wake people up? Is that fucking pretentious to say I'm trying to wake people up? Because I think that's, if I'm being honest about it, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want people to listen to something that I've done, and I consider this conversation, even though we're talking about your art, something I've done. I want someone to listen to it and go, oh yeah, that's right. Wake the fuck up.
Yeah. I think definitely. Maybe I wouldn't put it in those terms, because I get what you're saying, where it's like, if I'm over here trying to wake people up, then it's like I have something that, like, I have this great thing that they don't have, and I'm like above them, and I'm like teaching them, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, it can be like an egoic thing, I think, if it's that way. But it's also just like everyone shares the experience of life, and like we've experienced different things, and I do a ton of reading and writing, and like we both have delved into philosophy a ton, and so it's like I'm an enthusiast of philosophy and these things, and these are the things that I think I've learned. These are the truths that I think I've come across. And so I'm going to express those. And if you are down with it, then, and it helps you, then great, because I'm confident in what I have come to know and believe and learn. And I know that there's a lot of things that I've gotten wrong, and I still have got, hopefully a lot of life left to learn new things and become wiser and more sound in my wisdom. But like, these are the things that I've learned thus far that I think at this point are pointing towards the truth, and I'm going to express those things.
Yeah. Go towards the truth.
Yeah.
Take the ring.
Yeah. Take the ring
Mordor.
to Mordor.
Yeah.
And throw that shit
And throw it
into the fire.
So just to recap, you started out doing a lot of photography, so still work. You see the details.
Yeah.
Photography isn't always just capturing the moment. It is with sports photography. But when you get into the subtleties of photography, you're looking at a vignette of life, and you're looking at it subtly, which is played into your writing.
Very poetic, yeah.
Right? And then you wrote more, which is more permanent, and you kind of have to like paint a picture. Instead of taking a picture, you're painting a picture. And that plays out in your music. And I wonder, and when I ask, I thought you were saying, that is a good point.
Oh, no, I just burped.
Indigestion. With filmmaking, and I just thought of this just now because I'm so smart. No, with filmmaking, if you're telling a story, you need to have exposition, exterior shots, and then you build the scene. Maybe you show some like close-ups, establishing shots. You would show us sitting at the table, and then you would show like a clip of like the Zoom recorder and the microphone, and then it would be between us.
Yep.
So you do that with writing when you're writing like a novel or writing, fiction.
Yeah.
And you did that in your memoir. You did that very well.
Thank you.
If I remember, I think. No, I know you did. Do you do that intentionally with your music? Because whether you're aware of it or not, you do. And it's not obvious. You have to like dive into it. And I've learned that from when I started filming the music video with you. And I met Paul, and I learned your backstory. And I was like, oh, it is like past, present, and future. Always. It almost always seems like your songs are that way. And I don't know if you're doing that on purpose or not.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to tell the story and make it, I want it to have good, like, nuanced details from my life or things that I see. And, it's like a nice blend of things in terms of making a song, because it's like there's a little exposition, there's a little philosophy, there's some storytelling, there's also just like a lot of irreverence and just like cheeky one-liners that are just like funny and lighthearted, and like they make the song enjoyable to listen to, and it's not all like serious stuff, because I don't think that people are going to enjoy that as much. I don't enjoy it as much. And so I guess I try to blend a lot of things together to make something that is going to give people meaning, but also lightheartedness and joy. Yeah.
Yeah. You do it very well, in my opinion.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. It sounds like I'm wrapping it up. I'm trying to wrap it up. Let's tell the people again about your album.
Yeah, so I just came
The
out with an
Florist.
album. It's called The Florist. It's on Spotify and Apple Music. It's a 7-song project. It's the best music I've ever made. It's honestly great. I'm the artist, so like, what else am I gonna say? But there's other work that I have that's not great, and this is. So
He's not just saying that.
yeah,
It's like progressively gotten better.
it's gotten a lot
always
better
been
over
good.
time, and this
Yeah.
is definitely the best work yet. So seriously, there's something in there for everyone. I think I think you'll find value there. So
Not for everyone.
yeah.
Yeah, some people, if you don't like rap music, or if you don't like good music, it's not for you. So if you don't like good music, don't listen to it.
That's fair. If you're an idiot, it won't make any sense for you.
Dude, I'm still trying to balance, like, how do I be funny and serious? Like, I don't, I don't know. Like
I think you do a
used
pretty
to-
good, dude. You do a great job of that. Are you serious? Like,
well, I used to be a lot meaner with my humor, and it's because I hung out with people that were mean.
yeah, comedians, in other words.
Yeah. People that are always trying to find the line, but now I've learned like setting and set and setting. It's different when you're talking to just normal people. You can't just say the worst thing that comes to your mind.
That is true. Yeah, it's a lot different when you're mic'd up, and it's gonna live on forever on the internet.
Yeah. You were talking about, I want to say this before we leave, and you wrap on this, but you were talking about the fear and the anxiety of like thinking I have so much time to make it, and you seem like you've transcended that, correct?
No.
Damn. So one thing I come back to all the time is Jerry Seinfeld he's an okay comedian, but he's had a very iconic career.
I love me some Seinfeld.
I like Seinfeld too. But
It is 90s humor though. It's much.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it is 90s humor. And it's a little racist now. Have you seen some of the mashups? When they look back, it's not very woke, but it's okay. It's okay. Can't cancel him. He's already done.
Yeah.
There's the movie called Comedian by Jerry Seinfeld, and he is known for like having a set, and he had the same set for like a decade. He didn't deviate.
the same set, really.
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
And it's his fans would like to go, like would love. They didn't mind. They love going and hearing the iconic bits. It's so weird. It's like hearing a cover band kind
Wow.
of. Yeah. So he scrapped everything and started back over. This is a big, daunting process, and it's called Comedian. And the story was him doing this, but then there was another guy who's like mid-30s who had never made it yet. But he was a working comedian. He just, was struggling to get by. He was making as much as, someone would at an entry-level job, which is, success. Like, if you're not to that point yet, like this is very important as an artist, too. It's like there's always someone behind you that you can help that would want to be where you're at. But Jerry and this guy, I can't remember his name, is like Izzy or something like that. They're talking, and the up-and-coming comic was like, I don't know what to say to my friends. They're 35. They've got a white picket fence and kids, and like I'm me, and like my face isn't everywhere. I'm not like this famous icon, which is like what I set out to be. And Seinfeld said to him, that's not why you do it. That's not why we get into this thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, this moment here in this club, you're getting ready to go up on the stage and perform your art. That is it.
Yeah.
That is the thing. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. Now, we're not trying to live like everyone else.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I would like to have like a family and kids and things like that, but it's also like
You will. It'll look different.
for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is what I'm meant to do. I think this is what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
And that's
Sorry, Alexis. This is what I meant to do. Yeah.
I don't know. It takes courage to decide that and to listen to yourself and figure out what that is and then do it.
Yeah.
Because like this guy, the 35-year-old guy who's like not a big name, but he's still doing his thing. Like, he's living a brave life.
Yeah.
And
yeah. You don't do it for certainty and safety and security.
Yeah.
And the more stuff you acquire too as an artist, the bigger the fear is of failing and losing it all. It's like you don't actually lose it all.
yeah.
Those are just the material things. Like it's just like the ego, the recognition.
Mm-hmm.
You do it for the work. You do it for the constant like pursuit of like finding meaning and being okay with it.
Yep.
Because we all have to deal with it,
Yeah.
And as an artist, you get the pleasure and the fortune of trying to like understand it through a medium.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. This has been amazing.
Yeah, dude. Thank you for having me. It's been an awesome talk.
It's such
I love it.
amazing handshake. Dude.
Yeah. Well, we're both great guys.
Yeah.
And we both jerk other guys off a lot.
See,
So
this is the
just
jerking.
strong hands.
The
And
jerking.
yeah.
We had a moment. I could see
Yeah.
in his eyes. We teared up, and I was like, "We're gonna kiss." No,
Yeah.
cheating.
We decided
We shook hands, and then we're like, "Good boy."
Yeah. You gay boy.
That'll be us. A half thought, stepped on,
That's a good-
post
All right,
faded
we're gonna
advice.
stop there.
And Gandalf came back, cause his task wasn't done. He said, what you gonna do before you ashes and dust? Shit.